Hello, adventurers. I am Dungeon Master Roy with Dark Alchemy Limited. Tonight, I am joined by my fellow Dark Alchemist, the Dead Professor.
Hello, everybody.
I'm here with Christopher Zimmerman
Hello.
and Scott Foxx.
How we doing?
And tonight, we're talking about Labyrinth Adventures, which is a new Kickstarter coming out. We have the Realm Keeper picture up here for a quest module for Labyrinth Adventures. And Labyrinth Adventures, to my understanding, is an adventure that you don't need a Dungeon Master for. Is that correct, Christopher?
That's correct. It's a DM-less, solo optional dungeon crawling game system that utilizes basic RPG components. That's the best way to put it.
Perfect. And Scott is joining us. Scott Foxx, you are the lead artist on the Labyrinth Adventures, correct?
I don't know about lead artist, but I'm drawing the monster manual.
That does make you the lead artist. And Scott has some amazing artwork. We'll just put a quick picture of Minotaur here, a self-taught, long-time artist. And we'll get to that in a minute because first I'd like to ask for a Dungeons and Dragons story. This is a Dungeons and Dragons channel. We're going to talk about Labyrinth Adventures, how it is different and also kind of similar to D&D. Scott, can you kick us off with a Dungeons and Dragons story that we talked about in the green room? I was very excited about that one. I think that's a good way to start.
Sure. I always like to play warriors, get the good high stats for strength and all that. You have to be able to kill things quick. So I rolled a 17, which back then you needed to be a paladin for his charisma. And I rolled enough to make a paladin. So I basically made a cleric thief, and I led everybody to believe that he was a paladin for almost a year. It was fun. I wore leather armor and a leather helmet that looked kind of like Batman's cowl. And they asked me why I'm not wearing armor. Armor is because, I worship a forest god, and they don't allow me to wear it. So I also paid a person in town, through the Dungeon Master, of course, to train a steed for me, which he snuck out into the woods, and I whistled and it came to me. So I made it, because back then you got a steed at I think 10th level or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would rob them, and as the adventure went on, I was lawful. I was neutral good though, but I wasn't I usually play lawful good because I always shoot for the good guy stuff.
But you had the powers and abilities of the cleric.
Yes.
And so it seemed like, oh, this guy has some paladin abilities, and they didn't pick up on that.
Yep. I never really picked blocks in front of them or anything like that, but yeah.
What was there a big reveal or anything that happened when they found out? Were they like, Scott, what are you doing to us? How could you lie to us for a year?
Well, they all laughed and said, we thought you were a paladin this whole time, and you've been stealing from us and lying, and so it was just like that. It was funny. Just the dungeon master and I knew, great guy, Matt Hurd, probably one of the best dungeon masters I've ever played with. Awesome. And he's a good dungeon master, and he really played it out good for us. But he did that for everybody. We always had at least 6 players, and everybody had their own unique character and style. Yeah. It was a good time.
Awesome. Chris, what about you? You have any D&D stories for us, or can you tell us how Labyrinth Adventures kind of led in from that?
Yes, thank you so much for asking. And I'm going to keep this as short and sweet as possible. The summer before entering 9th grade, my best friend bought the D&D books at the time. So this was 1984, and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons had come out. And he went to the bookstore and he got the DMG, the Player's Handbook, and the Monster Manual. And nice. I think that was all that was available at the time. I do remember a couple years later, Unearthed Arcana came out, and that was a big deal. So, yeah, when you want to talk about old school, I'm very, very old school. So we started, so my friend Ricky was the DM, and then there were 4 of us, and we played this ongoing campaign up until we graduated high school, and then we all went our separate ways because that's life. And we were in the middle of Against the Giants when we graduated, if anyone has played that series.
Good mod.
Yep. So I'd never played an RPG before. Ricky had never done this either. He bought the books. He's like, this looks really cool. Let's play it. So, I mean, we all dove in as newbies. And at one point, I was playing an assassin, by the way. He goes, hey, you're an assassin, you're evil, but the leader of the party is a paladin. Can't have that. So at one point, we had to make up a class for me. And he said, well, you do a lot of recon. How would you like to be a spy? And I went, I don't care as long as I get to loot and kill people, whatever. He's like, all right, well, we'll make you neutral good. You can't kill people so often anymore. I went, that's fine. I don't care. So I had a blast. Well, we all did, watching our characters grow over 4 years. So during this time, in the 80s, video game consoles came out. That was huge. And then you'd go to the arcade and you'd play video games. And in 85, this game by Atari called Gauntlet came out. And we loved it because, remember that one?
Yeah.
Up to 4 people could play at once. Everyone was a different class. And it was so simple. You got a joystick and a fire button. And so you put in a bunch of quarters because it was a huge quarter eater. Yeah. And a random dungeon would blow up on the screen. You'd get a bird's eye view. You'd all start at one corner and you had to fight your way through the maze and try to get to the end. And if you did, another random map would pop up. And it was endless. And we loved it. And we spent a lot of money just playing this never-ending, no rhyme or reason game. Mm-hmm. So, segue to my senior year. I had already got accepted to Fresno State. I had senioritis. I was very bored. And I'd been playing D&D for about 3.5 years now. And I was in class one day, and I'm thinking about Gauntlet, and I went, how can I take Gauntlet and put it on paper? How can I make a randomly generated dungeon crawling game with 4 characters and have fun? So I started experimenting with random tables. And that's how I came up with, and that's one thing in the rule book that has never changed from the original. When you're rolling to generate your dungeon, through dice rolls, it'll tell you whether the passage turns left or right or goes straight, or you come to a door or you come to a locked door, and you roll it. Is there a trap? And then you roll for your room size, you roll for your exit doors, and you finally roll for room occupancy. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a creature because Gauntlet has relentless monster waves coming at you. Yeah. So I played it in class until the teacher pulled me aside one day and said, your dice rolling is distracting. You can't do that anymore. And I went, I get it. So I began to play it at home and further develop it. And I said, well, okay, I want my 4 character classes. And keep in mind, this is back in the late 80s. So I said, I want my fighter, I want my magic user, I want my cleric, and I want my thief. Okay. I later changed the names, but I said, okay, so I need to develop these characters. I need to come up with spell lists. I need to come up with certain things that each character can do to make them unique. And I hammered it out just through test play. And the object of this game was to create 4 characters, draw a start room right in the middle of a piece of graph paper, start rolling, and your dungeon would unfold before you. And the object was to try to fill up a piece of graph paper as much as possible. So when you got done, it looked like a labyrinth. And if you ever reached the edge of the paper or you ran out of doors, that level was done. You'd flip the piece of paper over, you'd draw a start room, and you'd keep going, just like you do in Gauntlet. So the object was to see how many levels you could pass before everyone died. Oh, wow. And that was it. That was my game. So
that's what this is what leads into Labyrinth Adventures.
Right. So that was 1987. 12 years ago, I'm going through some old boxes and I pull out this old tattered folder and I went, I know what this is. This is the game I made back in high school. Since then, I had joined the Army and done 2 tours. I went to a culinary school and became a chef. I have traveled a lot, and I'm amazed at This is one thing that I managed to hold on to without even knowing. It was an old box filled with random stuff. So what happened was I flipped through it and I said, I remember this was a fun game. I'm going to play it again. And I told the lady I was dating at the time about it. She happened to have some friends who were gamers. She told them about it. They said, we want to have a game night. Bring your game. I went, all right.
So you had a built-in playtest group.
Yeah, accidentally. I said, all right. So I meet up with a group of people, and I happened to bring a notepad and pen along, and I'm glad I did. They tore my rule book to shreds. We had a great time, but after about 4 long hours, and I'm thinking, I remember doing that, spending all night playing D&D. I went home and I said, Chris, you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So I rewrote the rule book, and I hired an illustrator at the local junior college. I said, I need some artwork. I'm making this book, this game. So they did the artwork. I found a local printer to print me off a hard copy, and I said, here's my game. Now what do I do? So I contacted a friend who does marketing. He says, let me take a look. And I showed him my game, and he said, I wouldn't buy this. The artwork is terrible. I'm just being honest. So I had to plunk down some money and find a reputable illustrator / graphic designer. They came out with a draft. From there, I discovered that Amazon has their own print-on-demand department. I had another copy printed, and this was beautiful. It had a glossy cover. It looked like it belonged on a game store shelf. And I went, all right, so now I have my game. So my girlfriend's roommate at the time, and now I'm about a year into this project because artwork takes a long time.
Let me stop you right, Chris. Let me stop you right there for 1 minute. So we're talking about, this is the Labyrinth Adventures. This became the first edition of this.
I would loosely call it the first edition. I have that original book somewhere around here. I want to dig it up because maybe someone will buy it from me one day.
Well, let's take a quick look at this here. This is the Kickstarter launching soon, right?
Okay.
And I don't want to cut you off, but I want to fast forward a little bit because I do want to take a look at the I do want to take a look at the artwork as you point out certain issues or certain things that come up. So who did the artwork on this particular thing? We have Labyrinth Adventures. We have 4 book covers, Dungeon Crawl Adventures books for 1 to 4 Brave Souls. And this second edition core rule book we're looking at here for our podcast listeners has an undead skeletal warrior. It looks like like acrylic kind of oil painting. It's got like these deep blues, a good skeleton, very scary, very evocative creature. And I think there's a creature behind him. Is it a scorpion? Is it a dragon?
Yeah, that's a giant scorpion.
Okay. So who created, not to disrespect Scott Foxx, who's our illustrator here, who did this artwork? This is all color.
Okay, so the rulebook cover was done by a hired gun named Jamie Fryer. He lives in England. He did the rulebook cover and the Realm Keeper 1 and 2 covers. The Enter the Labyrinth cover was done by a local illustrator. I liked the style, and so I kept that one. Okay,
I got you. And let's bring Scott into this conversation too in regards to the artwork, because I would like him to comment too. Christopher, what were you looking for in the form of monsters and line artwork? What kind of direction did you give Scott? Were you a fan of the original Monster Manual, the illustrations, line drawings? What are you thinking?
Yes, all of that. I remember in the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, well, all of the books, one, you could tell they were all hand drawn. I mean, because this is before computers, basically, and before all those graphic designing tools that we have today. They were done by various artists, so you had different styles, and that's what I remember. And so in creating this system, because it is literally an old school game, when I found Scott, I said, I want an old school feel, and I want it black and white. People who have played games like this are going to look at your art and they're going to immediately get it. And he has nailed illustration after illustration. He does great work.
So let's look at a couple illustrations. Scott, why don't you, good insight. Why don't you take us off here? What are we looking at here? It looks like an ogre with like spikes coming out of his knees and his shoulders. What's the inspiration here?
Well, first sketch I did was just, it looked like an ogre. And then Chris wanted to add horns here and there and stuff, which he always gives me great guidance on what he wants. He's very thorough, and I do my best to get what he wants. But yeah, this one come out real nice. It's probably one of my favorites. You know.
Okay.
It's what is it called, Chris?
Oh, okay. You were correct on ogre. My collaborator with the rule book, and we can talk about him for a minute. I believe it's now called an Oignen, and I think that's German for onion. So there is kind of a hidden shout out to the movie Shrek here, where Shrek says ogres have many, many layers like an onion. I don't remember the original quote, but when my friend Randall came up with Oignen, he started laughing, and I went, "What's so funny?" And he explained to me. And he says, "Well, it's a reference to Shrek. If people know what Oignen means, they're going to get it." I went, "That's great. Throw it in."
And now we're going to pull up a Minotaur. I recently played a Minotaur in Dungeons and Dragons. I had a Grave Cleric Minotaur, so I'm a fan of the race and the class. So tell me about this picture, Scott. What was your inspiration over here? Classic?
Just like I guess the Chronicles of Narnia. I guess Chris wanted him to be mean looking. Muscles, scars. I drew I think like 3 of them until we came up with this one. But yeah, this one is awesome. Chris has taken me out of my element, I guess you'd say. I usually just draw people face on, but now I'm doing action poses, and I'm also drawing with a pencil, which I haven't drawn with in years, and I forgot how much fun it was. So thanks, Chris, for having me do it.
We can find Scott on Facebook at Foxx Fantasy Art. That's FOXX Fantasy Art, all one word, Foxx Fantasy Art. We can contact you there. There's also an email, info@foxfantasy.art. That's FOXX for Scott's page. We'll pull it up in a minute. Let me ask you about, as I switch this picture, I love this one. It's just a simple little slime, but it's really well drawn, and your vanishing points are excellent. You said you're self-taught, Scott?
Yes. Chris guided me through this, and it took us a little time, but we got it. I get frustrated, then I got to step away. But yeah, they're all hand drawn, no tablets.
No, but for I mean, you said you're self-taught, but I took some art classes, went to some art school.
Well, high school,
Yeah, high school. Well, they talked about vanishing points, but like for hand drawn, your lines and your 45s and your angles are very precise and correct. I mean, it looks like the side of the wall.
My eye with a ruler.
You can mess up drawing a wall and floor angle very easily, but here it looks good.
What I did was I cracked an egg for this, and I looked at it.
Really?
Yes.
I believe it. I love it. It looks like
I don't draw stuff like this usually. I draw warriors and stuff. But like I said, he's taking me out of my element, which I'm happy he has.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Right. Just for reference,
let me ask you this. Yeah, please.
So just for reference, if you want to throw up an original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons line art, I shared one on the studio. It's one of my favorites, but I mean, you can see the similarities. So that's a paladin. That's a classic.
I love that picture.
I remember that picture.
Oh God, yeah. I still have the book.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a classic.
So, I mean, that's
fully armored knight.
Yep.
Yeah, that's classic.
I always wanted to redraw that.
Yeah. But you can see the similarities in the artwork. So that was all I was just trying to illustrate.
So a little tip on my understanding, because I watched the Amazon movie or program about D&D art. It was really well worth watching. They talked about the artists that were signed. They got like 8 to G. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You do all the line drawings for it, and then the next guy, you do all the line drawings for it. So people, they didn't even know what they were drawing. They were just happy to be working as artists. They had to make the stuff up. And then we come to this like saber-tooth tiger. So Scott and Christopher, a question for both of you. This is all pencil. Will this eventually this has to be inked, or is it just going to be scanned and put into the monster manual or your version of your creature catalog?
You're asking me?
Both. What's your vision? Is it going to be?
Scott, you go first. You tell them what we did.
I think it would look good just scanned. I like the natural look of it. It's I hate drawing animals, so
Oh, you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Like I said, he's taking me out of my element. But yeah, I think it looks good the way it is. You know, it looks old school to me. Kind of pictures I like.
Chris, will there be, besides the covers, will there be any color artwork in the books, or it's all going to be black and white pencil lined?
Great question. The monster manual, if you will, which I'm calling the creature guide, is its own glossary in the back of the rule book. So for people who play D&D, real quick, when you get the rule book, essentially it's a DMG and a player's handbook and a monster manual all combined. So everything you need is right there. From there, you buy a module and you go have fun. So for the
let's get into the
guide, I'm sorry.
Just talk to the creatures and then lead into what you were just saying about 1 to 4 players. You have the story fast system. Just creatures, and then how does that lead into being a possible solo adventure?
Oh, okay. Well, real quick, I wanted the creature guide to be all black and white, old school style art, because I know seasoned gamers are going to get a kick out of that style. The creatures that you run into, if they're not specifically listed in each module, you're going to come upon randomly during encounters or when you're rolling for room occupancy. So a good 99% of the time, once you've negotiated a door in some fashion, there's going to be something or more than one thing on the other side waiting for you. So you roll from the creature tables to see what you come across, and then the pages begin where you go, oh, okay, we ran into a 2-headed dragon. Great. Well, here's his stats. There's his attacks. All right. We are going to roll for our attack order, or as D&D players would say, make our initiative roll.
Mm-hmm.
So in the rule book, yes, I do have color splash art here and there. That is being done by an artist I found on a website. And then I do have other splash art that is solely black and white, done by still another artist I found on the website. So I had one artist do the front cover. Scott is doing the creature guide, and then I have 2 other artists doing splash art throughout the rulebook session. So it's a big project.
Yeah, well, it takes a village to make a good book, and in our world of AI art, it's good that creators support other creators, especially when it comes to art. We use some AI art for our own adventures in D&D, but just when we play, like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to hire Scott to draw this one person I want to show, but I do want to show my players, like, oh, this is the guy you're dealing with. You're dealing with this Baron or this Mayor, and we'll make a quick AI thing. But when you go to purchase from the Kickstarter, it is nice to see, hand-drawn art that an artist like Scott is really taking the time to create. And this one image is awesome. It looks like there's like an elven ranger rogue, and he's like getting gassed, and his lips are starting to curl in, and his eyes are wide open. This gives me a Dragon's Lair feel. Like he went the wrong way, and all of a sudden he's just gonna like turn into dust. Scott, what's going on over with this picture?
It's like you said, it's a I forgot what the monster was called. That's what the mist is, but it's sucking the life out of him. This took me a little while to do. The hardest part was getting the cloud right. So yeah, I love this one.
Well, here's an example of art that's really evocative of, you can tell the story from this one picture that this creature is somehow sucking the life, and it's really well drawn, and I like it.
Yeah, Chris tells me the story, and I put it on paper, basically.
Yeah. Professor, do you have any inspirations for art with your long history of D&D? Do you have a favorite art style, or do you like color or black and white?
I grew up with Dragon magazine and Dragon covers, so most of my favorite artists were Dragon magazine cover artists like Elmore and Parkinson. I mean, I have their collected artworks. I have all their drawing books. I have a couple of Elmore prints. was lucky enough to meet him at a con years ago. So yeah, but again, I grew up in the same era as you guys. I started playing in late 70s, early 80s, and Dragon magazine, every one of those covers was, that was the excitement. What's the cover going to be in next issue?
Yes.
So yeah, so
Yep, that's
Elmore,
another
Parkinson,
inspiration.
all those
Definitely
guys.
Dragon magazine for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Chris, can you talk about how your system is using the D6 and kind of explain that as compared to like a D20 system?
Yes, I will. But real quick,
yeah,
Scott, the Dead Professor, you just brought back a memory. My jaw dropped when you said Dragon magazine. My friend Ricky got a copy of Dragon magazine, and in it, and you can still get this edition, there was a mini game you could play called The Mad Mansion of Professor Ludlow that was D&D compatible. Okay. And it was because Ricky read it and he went, this looks a lot of fun. What's D&D? That's how it all started.
That's funny.
Wow.
So if he hadn't gotten that Dragon magazine issue, none of this would have happened. Okay, so system-wise, it's all D6 based. I did that for a reason because Labyrinth in its original phase was you need a piece of scratch paper so you can scribble out a character sheet. Every gamer has graph paper. You can get a pencil anywhere, and everybody, whether you're a gamer or not, has six-siders around. I mean, you could just open up your Monopoly game and say, there, now I have my dice. And so throughout edition after edition, I said to myself, no, keep it all D6 based. So that's one thing that will never change.
Okay, good. How about character leveling up? Now you're exploring this dungeon. Is it basically just a 2-hour adventure that you play with up to 4 people? Or is there any continuity where it leads into the next adventure? Or is it supposed to be kind of self-contained? Hey, we have a good night together. We pull out this book. What book are we pulling out next week?
That's exactly it. The introductory quest module, Enter the Labyrinth, is exactly that. It's there to get you used to the combat system because combat is relentless, and the random dungeon crawling, I should say, protocol. There are 5 steps involved that through a succession of dice rolls, your dungeon unfolds before you. So for the intro quest, I said, I want something short and sweet. And I came up with a scenario where you are 4 travelers. You go into a kingdom. Turns out there's a huge problem. And the magician's apprentice picks you out in the crowd because he can sense that there's something special about the 4 of you because he can sense some magical aura going on. And he says, I'm going to introduce you to my king. And the king says, yeah, we do have a huge problem. Please help us. Here's the entrance to the dungeon. And off you go. You start your dungeon crawling. You get to the source and you find the evil wizard who has woken from a 100-year slumber. He's gaining power by the day, and you have to kill him before he's powerful enough to unleash his wrath and destroy the kingdom. So yeah, it's a 2-hour. Can we do it? Can we save the day adventure?
How about dying? Can you die in this adventure? Because in Gauntlet, when you died, you put another quarter in. What happens when you die in your world?
Great question. Okay, this is something that I worked on with regards to the 2nd edition. When you die, there are a couple of ways that you can get resurrected. And one is if you're lucky enough when rolling for treasure, if you find a potion of resurrection, you keep that tucked away. Also, starting gear for the cleric is 1 potion of resurrection. So I kind of give you a freebie in case things get rough at the get-go. For Labyrinth Adventures 2nd edition, I provide the option of, for all starting characters, if you want to purchase a special power for each character, or maybe just for the cleric, for example, you can pick one special power, which will automatically give you an automatic amount of experience, which means you consult this table and see just how much more powerful the creatures are going to be when you start your first level. So I did that because one of the special powers a cleric can purchase is to buy the resurrection spell. And once you learn it, it takes one spell slot. And a cleric has 6 spell slots. So it might behoove a party before starting their first quest for the cleric to say, you know what? Before we start, I would like to purchase Resurrection, which automatically gives me 75 experience. So now that I know it, I'm going to use 2 of my spell slots for Resurrection. And I also have my potion in case I die, then one of you can pour it down my throat. And Warrior says, that's good. You know what? I'm going to buy Battle Cry, because that's a tactical power-up. That's what I call them. And it gives everyone a buff at the start of combat, and it lasts for one combat scenario. So let's say if we run into something really, really treacherous right off the bat, I can do my Battle Cry, which is a rechargeable power-up. And that'll give us a buff. That way we can probably slaughter this thing and move right along. So these are just a couple simple examples. So I worked on, so what happens when you die? Yeah, you come back to life, but is that it? And I went, no, I want there to be much more. And so I wrote a couple paragraphs for the new rule book. And one is, when a character comes back to life, you're not going to be at full health. It's up to the cleric to bring you back to full health. Also, you're going to have some hindrances. You're going to have some short-term, ill-lasting effects that will diminish upon your level completion. But in the meantime, Warrior's going to have some damage minuses. Rogue's going to not be able to pick locks and find traps so well. Wizard and Cleric are going to lose some of their memorized spells. You know, you're kind of hobbled in a sense until you make it to your level completion. Also, I said, and here's another option. Any gold that you've spent on yourself powering up, any gold that you've spent on yourself forming your character, tweaking your character, personalizing your character, maybe you don't want those special talents anymore. Maybe you want to put them back in your bank and you want to buy some new power-ups for yourself and shape your character in a different way. Once you're resurrected, now you have that option. So maybe a power-up that wasn't working so well for you before, you say, no, I don't want that one anymore. I want to purchase this one instead. Now my character can do this. Now maybe I'm more offensive. Now maybe I'm more defensive. Now maybe I'm more party related, something that helps all of us in some way. So I like the option that you can morph your character upon resurrection.
So let me ask you this, because I want to slide back to Scott Foxx over here. Quick question for Chris. The items that you find and the loot and the treasure you find, is this all written down, or is this, do we have pictures and cards for this separately in the game?
I have tables in the rule book. So let's say your room occupancy is treasure only. Oh, great. You flip right to the treasure section. You roll a D6 and it will tell you what you find. And there are different tables per on 1 through 6. So hopefully my favorite magic item is potions. We got a potion. So you flip to the potion table, you roll 2 dice 6, you see what kind of potion you get. And I know from memory, if you roll a 12, something wondrous escapes from the bottle, and it's a magic item. So then you flip to the magic item, and you roll to see what you got.
So I'm looking
now, during
at
certain scenarios, I will predetermine what you find. But as far as the randomness goes, the treasure items are up to the luck of the dice.
That's cool. Now, the reason I asked that, I'm looking at Scott's page here, and I want to pull that back up a minute. Let me share my screen here and make sure I get the right Facebook page. Scott, you are doing black and white for Labyrinth Adventures, but I see you also do some color work here, and it's very appropriate. October 3rd, you posted this. We have this nice young lady vampire. I mean, she might be hundreds of years old. I don't know. Got this blue skin, drinking a glass of blood or wine.
That's a poster, actually.
Oh, that's a poster you made. So this is you, right? It says Foxx Fantasy Art on it, right? So talk to me about your color work. I want to hear about that, and I want to do a shout out to Mayor Leo. I can't see he's the mayor of Gen Con. I'm just going to call him Mayor Leo now. So Leo, if you're watching, shout out to you. Scott's going to talk about this picture, and then I think in the green room, Scott, you had a custom picture you're going to hold up for us?
Yes. This is done with Sharpies on 4 pieces of tape together. Was that 11 by or 14 by 8 paper? So it's 4 pieces taped together, and I just started drawing her because people at work like Halloween stuff, and I usually give it away, but people have been buying it now. So, but I made this probably 2 months ago. Okay. It's I've had a hard time drawing females, so I've been just drawing quite a few of them, practicing, just in case.
That's the way you do it. Yeah, she this young lady vampire even has a tattoo on her arm, or like a little Day of the Dead skeleton with some pumpkins.
I draw them every year. Yeah.
I think you really captured it nice, and I love I love all the little square pumpkin faces, almost like little totem pole faces.
That was last minute.
You did that with Sharpies?
Sharpies, yep. And I actually just got some Posca markers, I think they're called, and I just threw a little bit of bright color in there with those. But it's with Sharpies and highlighters.
That's great.
That's amazing. Let me scroll down here to the Pumpkin Patch Pal. You said this is a Dungeons and Dragons character for somebody, a friend of yours?
Oh, yeah. He actually is making this into a comic book. It is a comic book. He sold, I don't know how many he sold, not many, but he's one of my first commissions. I drew a clown for him, so like an evil clown that he had in D&D. And this is also one of his other D&D characters who he's expanded into a comic book now. And this was
We'll give a shout out.
DM Roy has a fixation on pumpkins, so this is right up his alley.
Andy Doyle, his name is. It's Pumpkin Patch Pals. It's called.
I'll give a shout out to John's Longbox, a fellow YouTuber and somebody to play games with. He has a channel that he does superheroes and comic books. He's a big comic book guy, so maybe I'll try to hook Scott and your friend up with John, and maybe you can talk about a comic book. That might be something to do. He's always looking for people. But I really wanted to get to, I believe, this picture
that's
here.
It right there, yep. That's the one I did with Leo.
Yeah.
He
tell me about this.
This is his father's character, I believe, a barbarian. And he showed me a picture of a figure. And I just looked at the figure and drew this. You know, he said he had 2 magic axes. And I created this for him. You know, I'm new to backgrounds, you know. So this took me a little bit to get the background right. This probably took me 16 hours to draw, just because I kept screwing up and I wanted it to be perfect, especially when people are paying money, you know.
Yeah.
And he was like probably one of my 5th commissions ever. And,
so if somebody wants to commission you, they can find you on Facebook at Foxx Fantasy Art. That's FOXX. Fantasy Art on Facebook. And we have info. This is an email, info@foxfantasy.art.
Yeah, my son just made that website. It's got a lot of my artwork on it that we're going to start selling prints and t-shirts. I got some cool Halloween pictures that can look really good on t-shirts, but I don't want this to turn into a job, what I'm doing. So I'm kind of just, you know, when I get commissioned, it takes me a while because I work for Chris as well. I try to get his stuff done. I work full time, you know, but they're worth the wait, I think.
So I'll tell a quick story here. I was at I'm on Long Island, and there was an art show in my local community, and all these tents are set up, and I'm walking around just looking for different artwork and pictures. And I come across this one guy who does, you know, all different types of art. He actually did like gaming posters. He did like Metroid, Super Mario as a race, but almost like it was a real thing. it was a game called Punch Out Boxing, Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Yep,
So he did it as if it was an actual artwork poster you would hang on your wall, or join the rebellion for Star Wars, right? But like almost like a recruiting poster. So I was looking through his artwork, and he had a D&D module cover, and I'm like, I don't know what this module is. This is pretty cool. Is this an old module? He goes, no, I just made it up. I go, what do you mean? He goes, oh, that's my adventuring party for D&D. That's all the characters. And, I made the background, and instead of against the giants, it was against the whatever, he had a title for it. And he did artwork that looks, in this kind of style with the markers and the acrylics. And I thought that was such a cool idea. So for Scott, I'm just saying, maybe we'll commission you to do our characters, because we're in the world of Erendor that we created, and we're in the Age of Secrets. So I'd love to have all our characters lined up, looking like an old 1980s adventure, but then with all the words underneath. I think that would be real fun, and that might be if that gets out there and you can do that, Scott, you might be too busy, and you might have to quit your day job. You're drawing all the time.
I'll make time for it, definitely.
Yeah. So
photos are new to me as well. Okay, go ahead.
The last question: what is your kind of inspiration? You said you self-taught. What is some artists that inspire you, or some techniques, or some colors, or what makes you happy for art?
Larry Elmore was a big part of it. Like you guys were talking about Dragon magazine, that as well. I bought when I was like 6 years old, I bought a Conan the Barbarian comic book, number 100, and I started drawing that stuff after that. And I've always drawn warriors, most dragons, D&D books. Like I said, when I was in 6th grade, I traded something for this kid's basic set. It was the old set with the red dragon on the box. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
It had the old one. It was that set. And it had Keep on the Borderlands, which is one of my favorite modules ever.
Keep on the Borderlands,
changes all the time. And that's pretty much it, and my brother drew a lot. He used to draw crazy monsters and stuff, and then he would tell me to add my warriors to it, fighting it. So we used to do that collaborations when we were young. It was fun.
So a question for Chris and for Scott. Chris, you have the mindset about creating these adventure books, and then Scott is one of the artists that's helping bring it to life. Tell me about how working with Scott and your own mind creating this world, because I believe, if I read this right, maybe you can help me with the pronunciation of world. You're creating your own world. This all happens within, it's not the Forgotten Realms, it's Chris's world, and Scott's helping bring us to life. What's that world about, that world building process?
Great question. So at this point, when I started drafting Labyrinth Adventures 2nd edition, I found a reputable marketing agent, and he started throwing around some ideas. And I also asked my friend, look, would you be interested in collaborating on the rule book, and just give me some more ideas? That's basically, I want it bigger and better and badder. And so through a couple of conversations, I realized that when you play D&D, there are certain creatures that are synonymous with D&D, like Tiamat and the Beholder. You see those and you're like, that's D&D. And so I talked with Scott and I said, I want standard creatures in my games. We're going to have a dragon. We're going to have skeletons. I said, but I want to come up with some weird and wonderful stuff, so when people see that creature, they're going to go, oh, that's Labyrinth Adventures. So that's where we put our heads together and we started creating these monsters. So far, we're almost done, huh, Scott? We got, I think, a dozen left.
Yep.
So speaking to that, then we're looking at the Realm Keeper, the Horn of, how do you say that? I don't want to mispronounce it.
Davana. It's Elven.
Horn of Davana. We have, this is the picture of this is the base book, Labyrinth Adventures. This is a 2nd edition core rule book where he took a look at that. And let me just pull up this last image. I only can add a certain number of assets to. this program. So, and this is the mage. So we talked about, this is one of the first events we talked about, that there was a mage in the dungeon, or am I getting that wrong? Because this guy looks pretty nice. Looks like a friendly mage.
Thank you. He is a wounded elven hunter. That's how it all starts.
Okay. So I see these the core rule book and these adventure books. Looking at Scott's artwork and my love of pumpkins, I have to ask, will this eventually be expanded into additional books? And will you have specialty books like, hey, this is a Halloween adventure, even though maybe Halloween is different in the world, or maybe there's more of a Christmas themed adventure or a horror adventure? You'll be able to add books to your series that might be kind of specialized and based on maybe different storylines. Were you able to hear me with that?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry. There was a break. I heard you say something about Halloween, so I thought you were still talking to Scott.
I'll repeat the question. So I was looking at Scott's artwork, and he had some Halloween-inspired artwork. And then I'm saying, would you eventually be able to put out more books that have different themes, maybe a Halloween-based dungeon or a Christmas-based dungeon, or something kind of like, as you expand the series, you can put out different specialty books?
Oh, I could certainly do that. One thing about the rule book is that it's so light rules heavy play. With the core rule book, the sky's the limit as to where you can take each module. So of course I could do a different theme if I wanted to. I accidentally made the Realm Keeper series a 2-parter because I left the ending of part 1 very open, and I thought that's okay because each module is its own entity. But the thing that led me to part 2 was because I had created this NPC in my head and spent a lot of time creating this elusive mage that I said, you know what? I want to write another module where the players get to meet him and see what he's all about. So that's how the part 2 happened.
Well, I like that. Professor, anything to add? Any questions for Chris or Scott?
No, but I did throw an asset in you might want to throw up just to make Chris smirk.
Which one is it?
It's the only one I've added. Screenshot.
Drag.
There you go.
Okay, so I put this up for a second before. I didn't see it. The Professor added asset. We have Dragon Magazine, number 42. At the time, it was $3. They have the Mansion of the Mad Professor Ludlow, which is
there you go, Chris.
That was it, and that artwork is still awesome.
Yes, it is.
That artwork is still awesome.
I remember seeing that in the pile of.
That's
Dragon
awesome. I remember.
Yep.
Now it all comes flooding back, right?
I love the skeleton.
Yeah. Did you just Google that?
Yep. Just pulled that one up for you.
Yeah, the professors are a resident rules expert and also asset expert. So, I think Dragon Magazine has affected the lives of a lot of people, and hopefully, Chris, your adventure books will inspire the next generation when they see the artwork and they see Scott's, drawings in there. This might be a good entry point for somebody who's never played Dungeons and Dragons to jump in, because not everybody has access to a game master.
Right.
Somebody who takes up the mantle to run Dungeons and Dragons has to have the 3 initial books. And, some of these kids are studying at school. They say, I don't want to study at home. I have to read more. But once they fall in love with the adventure and the story, I think it makes them better, because they do read and they do start to take notes and they do map stuff out and inspires them to draw. But as a good starting point, you could pick up this book solo or with 1, 2, or 3 other friends and go through this adventure. And I think that's an awesome thing. Let's pull up the Kickstarter one more time. Let me share that screen.
Thank you.
That's the Labyrinth Adventures. So Labyrinth Adventures, the Realm Keeper, an adventure book for 1+ heroes who will battle their way to the heart of evil, searching for justice. You can click on the Kickstarter launching soon. Notify me on launch. 229 people already following. Fast, merciless adventure awaits. You are the Lightborn, a ragtag crew of noble heroes who defy all warnings and head into the fearsome world of Azame to face the Curse Weavers, the sworn enemies of all that is good, in hopes of finding and defeating evil Maldorn in one final epic showdown. What are the Curse Weavers, Chris? I'm scared.
Oh boy. Curse Weavers, well, they're evil beings that you encounter. You don't fight them because they pop in, they deal something heavily negative upon each member of your party, and everyone gets to roll for their own curse, and then they disappear. So they're out to thwart your efforts and cripple you in any way possible. And the only way to get rid of your curse is to amass enough gold to have it lifted by one of the aura specters. And the aura specters are the good beings who are on your side and enemies of the Curse Weavers. And the great thing about being cursed is when you pay to get your curse lifted, you now get a special power-up that's not available in the power-up menu. So you kind of want to get cursed in a sense, because you know it's going to be awful for a while. But once you get that lifted, you are now better in a very unique, enchanted way. Kind of like, so that's how I help to balance the rewards versus perils. It's like something really bad's going to hit you, but if you can overcome that obstacle, you get a wonderful boon out of it. And nice. I mean, it makes the gameplay unique and exciting.
I love it. So follow Labyrinth Adventures on Kickstarter, launching soon. That's going to be Labyrinth Adventures, all one word. You can also find Chris on Facebook at Labyrinth RPG. He does have a website which is currently under construction. It's also Labyrinth RPG. But check Facebook mostly for the links. He's updating it now. He's on Instagram, not as active, he said, but Labyrinth RPG. All the names are usually the same. Check out Scott at Foxx Fantasy Art on Facebook, and also at info@foxfantasy.art. And you can commission Scott for pictures. You're open to commissions now, Scott?
Not at the moment. We're still getting the site up, but I have everything set. We just gotta do a trial.
But they can email you. So you're open to taking commissions, right? You're available to draw, because some artists fill up. They say, no, I can't draw for a few months. I'm busy with something. Right. But you have time. You have time to draw. For us, adventurers. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just gonna say, right now, I'm not. Probably within the next month or so, I'll be able to take a couple more. But yeah, between Chris and I got 2 I'm doing now, which are big. So
okay, cool. But they can reach out to you, and they just have to wait. You have to wait for good art.
Yeah. I'm not in it for the money. I enjoy doing this, and the money just supports my supplies, and a lot of it I'm going to put towards my new grandchild who's on the way. But yeah.
Oh, God bless you. God bless you. That's awesome. Adventurers Wanted for our channel. Subscribe today. Please spread the word. Every follower counts. We just have over 500. I think we're at 517. Our next goal is 1,000 followers. So spread the word and share this. You can follow me and Scott, my fellow Dark Alchemist, on Instagram at Dark Alchemy Ltd. That's at Dark Alchemy Ltd on Instagram. Our forever DM Evanson is not here tonight, but you can follow him at DM_Evanson. That's EVENSEN. Again, subscribe for us, and we will be at Stravicon November 15th in Huntington on Long Island, vending at our table. We have a little Etsy store. I learned something, Scott. Scott, the professor, I learned that if I put this little Etsy shop badge up there where we sell our 3D printed miniatures, that you can take a screenshot and then long press it, and it'll take you there. So if it's on your phone, did you know that, Professor?
I did not know you could long press it.
Yeah, so Leo told me that today because I had mentioned it on the last episode. So shout out to Leo. His son taught him, and then he taught me. So I guess the younger you are, the better you're at tech. It just kind of flows up until you hit that age bracket. I do love the technology.
Those are kids teaching us.
I tell you. Scott, any parting words of wisdom for our audience here?
No, I mean, sorry.
Go ahead.
You're the professor. I meant Scott Foxx. I apologize. Scott Foxx, any parting words of wisdom?
Just enjoy the art that people put out there, no matter what it is. If it's hand drawn, AI, tablet drawing, like I draw by hand, but I enjoy doing that. It just takes a little longer. And I'd like to thank you guys and Chris for hiring me on to do the art. I enjoy it thoroughly, and I love just doing what I love to do, and that's draw fantasy art.
Chris Zimmerman of Labyrinth Adventures, any parting words for our audience?
I just want to say thank you all. Second edition project. It took 12 years to finally hammer out a game system that is fun, playable, easy to understand, and doesn't cost you a ton of money. So I'm really looking forward to getting it out there in his hands.
Sounds good. So, Chris, let us know when you actually launch. We will follow also, and we'll do a shout out to you on Instagram when you do launch. Professor, any parting words of wisdom?
No, I'm going to echo what Scott said. If you love what you do, keep at it.
But yeah, I will always post updates on the progress.
Thank you, Chris. Sorry, Professor. We had a delay in California.
Yep. No, if you love what you do, you'll keep at it, and you'll eventually get good at it. None of us started DMing as experts. It took many years to become good at that craft. It took many years to become good players. Like everything else, like art, like everything we do, it takes time.
It's all an art.
Keep at it.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's true.
Well, thank you, everybody who's staying with us long. We're going about an hour. We're going to end it here. Chris and Scott Foxx, if you want to stay in the green room,
thanks,
we'll just
Professor.
have a little chat, and have a good night, everybody. Hope everybody gets to play D&D this week. Have a great night.
Good night.